got some pretty good exercise out of the deal. I mean, I like to refer to this walking back and forth out inside the Unitarian Church in Montreal as my Sunday constitutional, because the word constitutional has at least two meanings. One of them being, constitutional in the sense of the constitution of a country, the sort of fundamental human rights that are enshrined in the Constitution. But constitutional is also the word for a walk taken for the purpose of exercise. So, kind of funny little double meaning there. And so I like to think that I'm getting some physical exercise while I'm exercising my constitutionally guaranteed rights and freedoms that are guaranteed in the Canadian Constitution, also known as the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So very nice double meaning there. And so anyway, getting back to the history of police interventions, there were various interventions here and there from the Westmount cops, but nothing terribly intimidating or anything that I can remember. And then in November of 2000, there was a police supervisor's van parked in front of the church on the other side, around where the entrance to the parking lot is there, just a little in front of it, where that white car is now. There was a police van, supervisor's van, pulled up, and the police officer was just observing me. Basically, I was under surveillance for at least 15 or 20 minutes, and I found this to be quite unusual. So I finally walked across the street and just asked the police officer, was there anything wrong? Was there, and he said, no, everything seems fine. So he basically, thank you, Missy. So yeah, I do get occasional thumbs up from the public. And, that was a fist up actually, but anyway, I get various positive affirmations from the public for my protest. But getting back to the situation, so I was under surveillance essentially for at least 15 or 20 minutes by this police supervisor in a supervisor's van sometime in November. I can't remember exactly when, but I'd say mid-November of 2000. And I asked him, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine. Then on the I think it was 4th of December, I can't remember the absolute exact date, but essentially it was the first Sunday in December of 2000. I was protesting. A police car pulled up, single police officer, and a guy by the name of Anthony Papa, who is now retired. And he said he was here to arrest me. Like, there wasn't any ifs, ands, or buts. Like, this wasn't a situation, that you could discuss. Like, he had essentially been ordered to come and arrest me. And he did. He was quite good about it. Like, he essentially arrested me in a very polite and professional manner. I can't remember if he cuffed me or not, but if he did, he didn't put the cuffs on too tight. And I'm pretty sure he might not have actually. But he did frisk me, did search me and so on. And he told me that I was under arrest. And I asked what for. And he said public nuisance. And I said, well, what kind of public nuisance? And I don't think he gave me an answer. It may be that he didn't know, but he gave me the section of the law under which I was being arrested, charged, and it was section 176.3 of the Canadian Criminal Code. And so when I looked into that and when I researched it, it is a section of the Canadian Criminal Code in the public nuisance area. Laws covering various types of public nuisance, and it's a law that prohibits disrupting the order and solemnity of church services. So essentially, I was being arrested for allegedly violating this law, which prohibits disrupting the order and solemnity of church services. And I found that kind of strange. It's like I'm outside, I'm not making much noise, I'm barely visible from within the sanctuary part of the church where the services take place. I've said all this before, but we're just repeating everything for the benefit of this sort of occasion. So here's the church sanctuary. As you can see, it's mostly this big brick wall. There's slit windows. There's 4 slit windows in the brick wall, and then there's this sort of tall window all the way up. And the slit windows, the one here, this one, is completely blocked. It's actually blocked by a memorial for the firefighters, the Montreal firefighters that were killed when the church's transsexual organist had a bad hair day and burned down the church. And that's actually almost 30 years ago. The 30th anniversary is coming up at the end of the month. I think on the 27th of May it'll be the 30th anniversary of Wilhelmina Tiemersma burning down the Unitarian Church of Montreal, which previously was on Simpson and Sherbrooke downtown. So that window's completely blocked. I cannot be seen out of it. 2 other windows are up so high that I cannot be seen out of them. Anyone looking through those windows would be looking up towards the trees and the sky. And then there's this single window here, which, in theory, if somebody was sort of right at the window or seated not too far from it, I think even if they were seated, they probably wouldn't be able to see me because the height of the window is basically above my head. The bottom of the window is about level with the top of my head. So I'm not sure that anyone seated would even be able to see. But somebody standing and looking what we call east here in Montreal, could see, the top of my head going by the window. They might be able to see a flash of the side of the picket signs. But essentially, I'm invisible within the sanctuary. This window, in the summer months, it's blocked, the bottom part of it, by the bushes, but the bottom part is quite a sort of tinted, dark. Can't really see through it. And then, of course, as you get higher up, well, you're not going to see me, are you? So totally invisible to the congregation. And as I said, I do not have noisemakers. I do not use a megaphone. So I'm not making any noise to be heard, as a rule. And even if I did make a certain amount of noise, this is a modern building. It was created with or designed and created with the idea of holding concerts and so on. So I would expect it to be reasonably soundproofed. So here I am, arrested for disrupting the order and solemnity of church services, even though it's almost impossible for my protest to have any effect whatsoever on the church service inside. So I made that point to the Crown prosecutor. I tried to persuade him to drop the charges. And I should say I'm simplifying the story here because it took forever to even find out, who the Crown prosecutor was, because it turns out they don't even assign Crown prosecutors until close to the trial date, and there were various delays in going to trial and so on. So, I don't think I even found out who the Crown prosecutor was until sometime in 2002 or possibly even 2003. So I'm arrested. The one thing that Anthony Pompa said, which I believe we'll just call a mistake, was, when I was arrested, he let me go on my own recognizance, and he said, "Don't come back." And so I asked him, "Well, what do you mean? Do you mean like don't come back today, or do you mean don't come back ever?" And he said, "I mean don't come back ever," kind of thing. Well, he shouldn't have said that. That wasn't, in fact, the truth. He might have not wanted me to come back, but legally speaking, I had every right to. I found that out, once I looked into everything. I quickly found out that even though I'd been arrested for allegedly violating this section of the criminal code, that I had every right to continue my protest until such a time as I was found guilty. And so that's what I did. I resumed my protest later. I think it was actually on the 31st. It was like later that month. You know, I normally give them a break around Christmas anyway, or I used to. So it really didn't put much of a dent in my protesting. I was back protesting, you know, even before the new year had begun. You know, my protest just continued. So even though this was clearly an attempt to try to force an end to my protest, you know, it actually took some years before I even went to trial properly. And when it did go to trial, I totally demolished, you know, the witness's testimony. Oh yes, I just lost a little thing here. Yeah, speaking of the Crown Prosecutor, you know, when I finally did get through to him and say, hey, look, you know, they can't see me in the church, you know, they can't hear me, you know, I think you should just drop the charges, because I don't think, you know, you can, you know, I don't think I'm violating that law at all, you know. And he came back with, oh, I have witnesses. So apparently he thought he had witnesses whose testimony would allow him to obtain a conviction for, you know, violating this section of law, which prohibits disrupting the order and solemnity of church services. So I said, fine, we'll go to court. Now, he did actually offer me to drop the charges if I signed a peace bond. Essentially, if I signed a restraining order preventing me from being anywhere near the church for a year, he would have dropped the charges. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, as far as I'm concerned, I'm innocent, and we'll go to trial on this, you know. And so that's what happened. We went to trial, finally. After various delays, it went to trial, I think in early 2003, I believe in April. Well, no, actually, I think it started, I think in November of 2002. I think the first actual trial date, if I'm not mistaken, was November 1st of 2002. But, you know, there wasn't enough time to